Hi and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live on Bridging Magic. It's an interesting topic to me because so often I hear people talking about how to be a bridge, how to live in joy, how to fulfill their service, and yet they don't talk about the magic within them. Hi Marianne, Sarupa, Orla and Michelle, thank you for joining. Hi Jackie. So what do we mean when we talk about bridging magic? When John talks about it, when I talk about it? Hi, we've now got Amanda and Yumiko, Pia and Harish and Juliet. So we've got a nice group coming and it looks like John's joining us too. So that's even more interesting. Bronwyn, Glynis, Sonia. It seems to me, therefore, with all of you here, hi Julie, that this is a topic that interests people and that they're quite curious about. We've now got Jennifer and Karen. So, what does it mean? In my book, when we bridge our magic, what we do is we connect who we are as a soul being to who we came to be as an essential being. And I'll clarify that. We've now got Anita and Caroline. Great, glad you could join. We're essence before we're soul. Our essence creates our soul as an intermediary to enable us to take a personality and live at a physical level. And that's something that John talks about. It's something that we cover in the 7 Spiritual Truths. Basically, all of our teaching is around the 3 aspects of ourself: the essence, the soul, and the personality. At a personality level, we have gifts and abilities that are fundamental to who we are, that we've developed over lifetimes. And so we came to use those gifts and abilities to share them with people, to help them to develop and share their own gifts and abilities. So that's at a personal level and at a personality level. That's our magic. However, the personality tends to forget that that's who we are or what we possess. Our soul remembers, but our personality tends to forget. And so when we bridge our magic, it's about, at a personality level, connecting our awareness to our soul and then allowing the soul to open the connection to our essence. So pure spirit connects to pure matter, which is us. We're not that pure, but pure matter. And we form a bridge between the two that we then use not only for our own journey, but to assist other people on theirs. It sounds complicated, but it's not. When you and I connect in our heart, we start to connect to an expanded sense of self. That's one end of the bridge. As we start to explore that expanded sense of self, our essence, our higher self, as some people call it, our essence comes to meet us, and we meet somewhere in the middle of that. And there's the bridge. So we bridge our magic, the 2 aspects of ourself that make us unique and that embody our service. John talks about magic. He talks about bridges and magic a lot because it's obviously a way of helping people to understand that he has found useful. And a few people sent me some questions for tonight. So I'd like to start with the questions first. And if any of you looking in want to answer or even to ask anything more, please do so. So John talks about setting up a regular time each day. This came from Orla, to talk to our higher selves and to ask for the next step. Orla says, and I'm reading it, do we ask for our next step every day? Because that feels like a lot of steps. No. And the simple reason I say no is Most usually it's because how often do we do what we're told? You sit in meditation and ask, what's your next step? And sometimes you don't feel that you're told what it is. Sometimes you're told what it is. And as John says, you question, is this my ego or is this my imagination? So no, you don't need to ask every day, because if you ask once and you doubt and you question, the next time that you go in, what will happen is Spirit will keep bringing you to that same point again and again until a little light goes on in here and we start to think, perhaps that's really what it's all about after all. So no, Orla, we don't have to ask every day. And even if we got the answer and we acted on it, Spirit doesn't give us steps that take 2 seconds or 2 minutes. Usually the next step is something that we need to work through and with. It can take a month, 6 months, a year, a lifetime. When you ask, what's my next step? If you're following the signs and the signals along the way, then you don't need to ask again until you start to feel stuck. And if you start to feel stuck, then you can ask the question again. So I hope that answers your question. Her second question was, if we struggle to see our gifts and have asked but are still unclear, is it helpful to ask those around us, those that are close to us, what they see as our gifts? Or is it more beneficial to continue with the Anchoring the Heart exercise? My answer is the second. And that's because, and this is being based on personal experience too, as I'm sure a lot of you will have had. People around us want to help us by telling us who they think we should be, what they think we should be doing. It's not often that those close to you actually tune in and ask about you first before they give you the benefit of their perceptions. And so asking those close around us means that we stop talking to ourselves and we start talking to external factors which may or may not have the full picture. I'm not saying don't ever ask people around you what they see as your gifts, because it can be helpful. However, the more you do the Anchoring Your Heart exercise, the more you sit and talk to you and listen to what your soul is trying to tell you, the more you'll gain the clarity you need based on the whole of who you are for what you want to do. Amanda's saying that she's finding the Anchoring the Heart meditation powerful and relevant for the energy right now, and it is. Obviously, that's why John gave it to everybody, so no surprise there. I would say no. If somebody offers a suggestion as to what we're good at, thank you. It's very nice to know. And it may be relevant. Before accepting it, however, I'd take it inside, I'd go into my meditation and I would ask, is this something for me to focus on now? And if the answer is yes, fine. But I've checked with me and my guidance first. Okay, so hope that answers your questions, Orla. What do we have now? We have Bronwyn. How does... Oh, Orla says, that's what I was feeling, Helen, so thanks for confirming. It's good to know when we're on the right track, isn't it? And yes, Julie, it does allow us to trust ourselves rather than looking outside of ourselves, because the more we look to somebody else as an answer, the more we bring ourselves down in our trust of our own knowing. So how does accepting my shadow or parts of myself that are not light-filled serve me and or others? That's what Bronwyn's asking. If you accept your shadow, doesn't mean that you say, oh, very well, I'm a terrible person, and do nothing. Accepting that there is something within us that is disowned or feeling unloved is a step, not a destination. Because once we know it, then it's an opportunity to look at what that's all about and how to work with it to go beyond it so that it's no longer a shadow, it's enlightened. Accepting it, however, means that it no longer has the power to undermine us, kind of sneak up on us from behind when we're not expecting it and trip us up. The more we are aware of what our buttons are, what our uncertainties are, the less easily we're manipulated by others, the less easily we attempted to build ourselves up to feel good without having the substance and the foundation underneath for that feel good to be permanent. Is it possible to have no shadow aspects of self while in human form? I think that's a great question, Bronwyn. And I'd love to say an unconditional yes. My understanding is this. Yes, it's possible to have no shadow aspects of self whilst we're in human form that we are conscious of. And that's the qualification, that we are conscious of. We may not be conscious that there is a shadow there because it's not time for us to deal with it, because something else has to happen first, or we need to develop something or build on something first. So yes, we may not be aware of it, but my understanding is once we've resolved everything and done what we came to do, we're no longer in human form, unless we have now become a master of a particular quality, and then we can choose to take human form at any time to live that particular quality as part of a teaching. Jackie says, isn't it often unconscious? It's always unconscious. If we believe that we have nothing of shadow left within us to resolve, we are unconscious of something. People say to me, I've resolved everything now, so I don't need to work on anything because I've done it all. I've learned all that I came here to learn. I've resolved all the hidden stuff. And I smile and say, great. And then I wait. And 9 times out of 10, that person will come back and say, I thought I had, but I've just found this. When we think that we've resolved it all, our head has taken over from our heart. Julie says, if we embrace our shadow, are we less likely to be critical of others? So as a measure of progress, as we notice we're less judgmental, we may well be accepting of our own shadow and working on it. Just one moment. Yes, often we see changes in ourselves based on how we interact with others. Of course, if we're really working with ourselves, we're going to be aware that we're becoming less judgmental. And so we don't necessarily need that reflection of how we treat other people. But you're absolutely correct, Julie. That's exactly what it's about. And Bronwyn also asked, does our shadow serve our gifts? Can it be a gift? Ooh, that's stepping into an interesting realm. Shadow can and will serve our gifts if we see it as an opportunity. Where we've got to be careful is where shadow tells us how fantastic we are, we're the best things in sliced bread. It's a bit like the 3 temptations that Jesus had, turn the stones into bread to prove who you are, jump off a temple and let the angels save you so that everybody knows you're the chosen one. That kind of shadow doesn't serve at all, because what it's striving to do is to make it all about you and not about your gift, so you don't actually utilize your gifts. However, if we're aware that we have something within us that's unresolved, and we can see where something that we have as a gift is being held back by it, the highlight of the shadow, which sounds a contradiction, but the highlight of the shadow becomes a gift to us, a kind of prod to us to move forward. Shadow's never a gift, but it can be a prod. And it's part of who we are. So it's not about judging it and distancing ourselves from it. It's embracing it so that we become all we can be. Does shadow mask our authentic gifts? Anita's asking. Yes, it can, absolutely. If we're about to do something significant that can bring more light into the world, our shadow can certainly try to hide us from ourselves so that we don't step forward. And so we step into, I'd like to do it, but I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, I don't know enough. If it's presenting to you to do something, even if you feel that a lot of that is ego, the fact that it's presenting means that you're ready to start working with it. And yes, it may prove to be ego, but you'll learn something powerful on the way, and something beneficial will always come out of it. Pia says, when the soul shattered and it's filled by the essence and no ego left, how does the physical existence look? It looks the same as it did before the soul shattered. What's that saying? Before enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. After enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. The difference is that our aura is filled with light, so people will feel it, sense it, see it. And that's how it radiates. Mary Ann asked, focus on spirit and alignment with spirit, is there a difference? And Mary Ann's actually just said, have we overcome our shadow if what once triggered us no longer does when you see it again? Absolutely. That means you've moved. You've not overcome it, you've integrated it. So when we focus on spirit, doesn't necessarily mean we're aligned with spirit. It's kind of like focusing on how to drive doesn't mean that we're aligned enough to be able to drive. So they're not quite the same thing. Bronwyn says, thank you for asking. Amanda says she likes the enlightenment quote. Pia asked, what's the relationship between magic and joy and how do they connect? And that is a significant question. Our magic is the essence of who we are. And I've used that phrase deliberately. We have an essence. Our magic within us inherently is the essence of who we are in a physical form, connected to our soul at this time. Our joy can be our emotional body, or it can be the sense of utter connection and at-one-ment that we have when we connect to our essence, not from just in the heart, but the whole of the essence when the soul shatters. So joy can operate in two ways. It can be the emotional body's ability to connect to spirit that sparks our journey because it feels so good. But when we shatter the soul, our joy becomes a permanent state of being. It's not dependent upon whether we're connected or not, because at that stage we're not disconnected ever. And white magic is simply the magical term and the esoteric term for people who are seeking to resolve all of the unresolved aspects within self. White magic is the path to at-one-ment with your essence and with all that is. So the more that we connect to our magic, the more we apply white magic, the more we attain a permanent state of joy. At any point, we experience magic and joy, but they're not the same thing, and they're not there for the same reason. They both serve different purposes. I hope that's been useful. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to ask or say whilst we are here? Doesn't sound like it, so that's good. Okay, then if that's the case, I'll thank all of you for attending. I've really appreciated your time and the questions you've asked. Sonia, how can my friends access the heart anchoring exercise? The heart anchoring exercise is part of John's talks. So that's how they would access that exercise. All right. So thank you all. I appreciate it. And I look forward to next month when we have another Facebook Live. Oh, okay. Haresh wants to know, how do you know when your soul shatters? How about we talk about that, Haresh, at the next meeting? Because that's quite a long answer. So I think it would be good if we talked about that next time. I'll make a note and perhaps you could remind me also. So thank you very much. Enjoy your evening and I'll talk to you next time.